Hey guys, and welcome to season 4 of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we get to remember and reminisce back in time with some of our guests like...
Hey, we are Entity,
and you're listening to
the Us People podcast
with Savia Rocks.
Peace, my name is Oni. I'm a producer-engineer from Queens, New York.
Hi, my name is James Green. I'm a TV presenter, sports reporter and journalist.
Hi, this is Joy Langley and I'm the author of Navigating Stress.
Hey, this is Travis Glossop. I am a creative radio producer for Kiss FM and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
We highlight the strengths of our cultures, talking about diversity and inclusion and speaking out loud and proud about who we are.
I was never that good. I was determined. I had a love for the sport and that always fueled me.
At 49, I was seven years post-divorce after 22 years and 3 kids of a marriage. And so I knew that I needed to figure out what was happening for me and why was this such a severe sort of crack in my identity and how I showed up in the world.
It's great. I'm glad because I'll be honest, I didn't really work that hard at uni, so it was good to leave uni and really get on it, really because I also, as a person, I think I value productivity. A lot of people live to work. I think I am one of the work to live guys, but because my work is amazing, that's all right with me. So as a person, I go to bed happy when I've had a productive day.
We've also saved the best till last by honouring another artist and showcasing their talent as our new theme song with none other than your host, Savia Rocks, featuring in their song. So guys, enjoy, stay creative, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Let's go.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Ready Rayan. I'm the author of Before We Were Born, and I am here with the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace when I wake up.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I am abundantly humbled to have Kathleen here with me. She is the author of Before We Were Born. Kathleen, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People podcast. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful, and I very much appreciate you having me here, Savia.
No, I'm more humbled too. It works both ways in my world, so thank you so much. So, Kathleen, my first question for you is, could you tell me about yourself, where you grew up, and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Well, I grew up, I'm over here in the United States in Massachusetts, and right now I live in Plymouth, so you'll know Plymouth Rock.
Yeah, I know that.
That's where we live. But I grew up in a little town called Hanson. I have 4 older sisters. And, in our little town, we were called the Ready Girls. We were just kind of known that. And we were all very tall. I'm 5'11", and I'm the only one under 6 feet. So my sisters were basketball players and, that kind of thing. Really... I feel like a lucky thing about my childhood is that my parents empowered us. And they, we were swimmers when we were younger, competitive swimmers, and they would bring us everywhere. Every weekend, every day we'd get up early in the morning before it was dark out, and we'd go do our swim practices. And year round, I had really committed parents, And my dad used to say, Kathleen, if you believe hard enough that you can fly, you can. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that really planted something in me.
I love that. It's nice to have parents who believe in your ability to be able to fly. I always say ability to shine, and it seems like your father was saying ability to fly. So they both work hand in hand. So can you define who you are as a person? What do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time, Kathleen, where you have looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to manifest or build the confidence within yourself to become the person who you wanted to be, or take yourself from where you were previously to being in a peaceful or happy or more content place?
Well, that's a lovely question. I actually, when I was a younger woman, I was in my 20s, I was an alcoholic. And even through my late teenage years, I was really, involved in a lot of addiction. And when I was 26 years old, I went into a rehab for 2 months. And that changed my life more than anything that's ever happened for me. And I'm very, very blessed to be able to say that I have never gone back on that track.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. It's been 30 plus years that I've not had a drink or a drug in my body. And thank you. And that changed everything. So I used to look in the mirror and I used to not only not recognize myself, I really didn't like myself. And I had no idea who I was, why I was here. I was terrified of death. I was terrified of just so many things that I was having panic attacks. I had all kinds of problems. And when I got sober, I started to sort through those things. And I guess the really turning point of that for me is that when I went into this rehab, I was told, you have to believe in something more powerful than you.
Yes.
And it can be God or it cannot be God. That's up to you, whatever that is, but it has to be something you have to ask for help. And that is where I started reconnecting with my higher power. And that changed everything, Savia. That has been the course of my life since then. I was raised Catholic when I was a little girl. This is very different. It was not the religious ritual. This was something from inside me.
Yeah.
And I had this understanding, I had an awareness that there was something out there that loved me very deeply.
Yep.
And I couldn't define that, but I knew that I was being held up and I had to do my own share. I had to be part of this. So, as they tell you in AA, you have to walk you have to walk the walk. You can't just, talk about it. You got to do it. So that was really the big turning point in my life, getting sober. I've always been a storyteller. I love stories. When I was a little girl, I used to tell my mom I'd sit down to write songs. When I was 8, I wanted to be on the radio. I loved music, and I still love music and just always felt so connected to it. And, so it went from that, I actually went to law school after I got sober. I have 2 daughters, and one was born 10 years before the other. And it was back, right after I got sober, and I was a single mom with her, and I was trying to find ways to support myself and my little girl in a positive way. And so I decided, I already had a bachelor's degree, and I thought I think I can get into law school, and I did. And so I had that whole journey in my life. I didn't identify strongly with that emotionally, but it was a way to get a job and pay our bills. And it was interesting and it was challenging and it was a lot of good things for me, but it was not a permanent place for me to be in practicing law. Sometime after I met my husband, he's a musician, and yes, yes, exactly. And we just connected. The night we met, we connected. There was this strong spiritual connection between us, and we've been attached at the hip for the past 26 years.
I love that.
Yeah, we're very lucky about that. And so after that, he would say to me, you really should be writing. You should be writing. You didn't come here to practice law. And eventually, I took that leap, and I started just writing full time. And so that's always been a part of my life. The other huge change that happened is I became a medium.
Yes.
And so that is what led to the telling of this story, before we were born. And I wrote that book because I was receiving a lot of information from spirit. I started fairly, it took a long time, let's put it that way. It came on fast at first, and I was starting to see, spirit lights, things like that when I first started connecting to spirit. But after a while, I became able to channel. And I had some family members and friends and also teachers and guides in the spirit world who were just speaking right through my body. And my husband would always do this with me, and he'd write it all down. And after every session, we'd be thinking, oh my God, like what do we do with this information? It was just, we felt electrified by it because we were learning things like, oh, this is not our first time here, and this won't be the last time, and our soul is eternal. It's such an empowering kind of thing to hear those words and to really feel them in your heart. I always say that it felt to me like I was remembering, not like I was learning for the first time. It felt like, oh yeah, as these truths were given to us, it just felt so familiar. It felt like, yeah, this is right. This is alignment. The most aligned, I guess, I've felt with spirit is receiving this information really just because it was love. It was an act of love. And in the beginning, I'd say like, well, what should we do with this? And they'd say anything you want. We don't have an agenda. You can tell people, you can not tell people. We don't care, and it was just such an unusual situation. I was still practicing law when this started. So really, like, I had these two, kind of black and white lives, practicing law by day and communicating with spirit at night. Really very interesting. I just decided, this is a story. Boy, I would love to write this story. And, so that's what I did. And I wanted to talk about past lives and how we are connected to each other. Of course, there's all kinds of soulmates. And I decided to make this pair. It's a romantic pairing. It doesn't have to be that, but that's what it is in my book. And I wanted it to be about what is life like when you choose to come here together. Yes. And what happens when you get here, and how, do you bump right into each other? Or, is it easy? Is it smooth? Is it, and the answer is no, it's not, because you're here on life and it's like everybody, we're learning and we're growing and we're finding people at different times in our lives. And that's really what the story is about. So these two souls make this decision to come here and to sort of weather the storm of this life together.
I love that. Even I had a chance to read it. I've got it right here with me. And so so I had a beautiful chance to actually sit down and read the book, and there are so many, and I connected with it straight away because anything spiritual to me, spirituality came to me at a very, very young age when my grandmother said you were special and you were gifted. And it resonated with me, and I always felt like I was different from everyone else, and I felt like everyone couldn't understand who I was. If I was seeing something spiritual, I could tell you it before it actually happened, and I wasn't understanding it at a young age. So I can definitely understand where you're coming from when you talk about the manifestation and the connection with the universe, because we are a part of the universe. We are literally part of the universe itself. So I love being able to talk about reincarnation, because a lot of people who I've had conversations with may not believe in reincarnation. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that there are some people in the world who are abundantly gifted with gifts to try and help educate people on about spirituality and reincarnation. So that's definitely something that resonated with me in the book, and love is a powerful thing as well when it comes to connecting with people. So I want to talk more about the book, because this is something that I really enjoy, because you say it doesn't have to be about romantic partnerships. It could be about soulmates or soul families. Let's talk more about reincarnation for you. Do you believe, first question for you is, how many times spontaneously do you think you have been on Earth or in other life?
I just want to say countless, because I don't have a number. And I don't know if I'd want to know. When we first started communicating with spirit, I had a whole lot of questions about, well, who was I and where was I? And one of the places I did learn about being Native American at one point, and they said, well, you were a storyteller. And that just made me feel like, well, of course, that makes sense, because even when I was little, I couldn't wait to learn to read a book when I was little. I hated that my sisters knew how to read. I was the baby and I didn't know how to read. So stories have always had a power in my life. And so I learned about that. And I learned about, a few other things, but after a while, I began to realize it doesn't really matter that much. It's what the details are. It's just, I was here, this soul was here, and I had the experiences that I needed to have that brought me to be here in this particular body in this particular
Yes.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be trust. And I think it's that. I think it comes down to, I trust this power that is, the God force.
Yes. That's a
And
good way of putting it.
yeah, yeah. And you said, it's love. And I really feel like I would not know how to define either of those things, the God force of love, other than that that's what they both are. I think the God force is love and creativity. And it's all just like this burgeoning, beautiful work of art that's just ongoing. And that's what the universe is.
Tell me one thing about writing the book. What was the hardest part about writing the book? Because sometimes as creators, it's not that we self-sabotage ourselves. It's more about, it's our baby in a way. When we're writing a story about whatever it is we're writing about that is connected to us, that we have been sent down from wherever it may be into us for us to channel out. What was the hardest part about writing the book?
For me, the hardest part was as they got older. So there's the two main characters, as you know, in this lifetime. Their names are Joy and Jeremy. And they're flawed, just like we are. And I wanted them to be as real as they could be. I wanted people to relate to the characters as if they were their next door neighbors. Or it's important to me when I write that people find the characters to feel familiar to them. And spent a lot of time on their childhood, on their relationship. And then as they got into their teen years, part of, my teen years, I guess, came back in. And there was this scene where Joy is sitting in the tree. And she's the part where she goes out, she sneaks out at night, and she's sitting there and she's reflecting on the little boy, Jeremy, and how he loved her. And she said, I wasn't beautiful. I wasn't any of the things I am now, but he loved me, and it was more this like raw identity of like, this is the real me is the one that he loved. And that was painful for me to write, but it was also something that I had come to understand, just in my own life of like growing past certain phases and, and seeing there are certain people who see you all the way to your soul.
Yes.
And not everyone does, but some people do. And that's what they have. And the other thing, the hardest thing for me is I don't want to give away too much for anyone who might want to read the book. But one of these two soulmates passes prematurely.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but also spirit communication comes in, and they have to learn to stay connected somehow, and they do. But when that one person is getting ready to pass, and the scene that leads up to it and all, it broke my heart, because I loved this character very much, and they've become very real in my mind.
It's actually connecting. Sometimes I take a breath too. I realize that you don't always have to have an answer for things, but listening and hearing are two completely different things. And once you understand both of them, when someone's telling you their story, it's good to take a second just to embrace it.
Yeah, that's smart.
One of the things I do want to ask you, just in saying what you said in the last question I asked you, the biggest thing is forgiveness. Forgiveness can help us so much in our lives. It can heal us. It can take us away from being bitter. But my question to you is, how do you feel that forgiveness has helped you in your life to transform or to heal from things that have happened in your life?
Honestly, Savia, it's a hard one for me. Forgiveness has been hard. Things happened when I was an active alcoholic. And a lot of things, women are badly abused when they're they're high or they're drunk or they're incapacitated. And I had things happen that have left a mark, and I have, in a sense, I've done some work to forgive the people who've done these things. I have spoken to them. I have not, I've taken whatever steps I felt I needed to try to get past that, because I have felt it pulling me back.
Yeah.
I cannot honestly tell you that there are no marks left, because I don't know how to do that. Think that, and I hope that, I'll get there. I hope I will. But those are the kinds of things. And the other thing that I find is, and again, it's attached to my alcoholism, it's self-forgiveness. And I think
Yes.
that's a really tough one. And I know, because I'll tell this, I have 2 daughters, and they're just, they're my girls, and they're everything, and I always, tell them, like, you're this person at a certain age, you can't judge who you were 20 years ago based on who you are now, because
Exactly.
you didn't have the understanding, the awareness, but your current awareness is looking back.
Yes.
And that's what I do to myself. I look back and I think, why? And some of it is so little and trivial. I'll say, why did I say this thing to this person back in 1985? And the person doesn't even remember, but in my mind, it's still there. And I think it's like holding myself to some level that doesn't it's really not realistic. But that's, it's self-destructive, really. I mean, it's terrible, but I'm better at it than I used to be. I'll say that.
What is the best advice? Because I know you might say your husband with this question, actually. I can feel the presence of maybe he might be involved in this, but what is the best advice you have ever been given? And how has it, again, helped you to overcome or to embrace who you are as a person and see the beauty, not just on the outside of who you are, but also on the inside?
It's probably the idea of, I don't know if I have a direct quote for that, but not being afraid to be who you are.
Oh, very true.
For me, it took me a long time to tell people that I was a medium. And it made me feel isolated. I think a lot of it is because, so my husband is from Israel. He grew up in Kenya, and he grew up in a kibbutz in Israel.
Yeah.
And he didn't follow a certain religion. And he doesn't have any fear when it comes to the mediumship. But I brought a lot of fear to the table. So I think it's the Catholic upbringing. And I didn't know, particularly when I had spirits coming through to talk through my body, I didn't know who they were sometimes. And I would get shaken by it. And I really feel like it came from my background.
Okay.
But I did find ways to just make sure that I felt safe in it, and that I only had certain, people coming through, people that were here, I always say for my best and highest good, our friends, our family, people. If you love us, I always say, if you love us, you're welcome here. You come into our little circle, and the room sort of fills with light, and they're all here, and it's amazing. But I have struggled with that. And when this book came out, that was really kind of like a coming out for me as a medium, because so many people didn't know, so it was really this, like, this is who I am, and just something that I had always been private about.
If there was, for example, one question, in the sense where if there was a question that you wished people asked you, but nobody ever really has, what would that question be and why?
One thing people, I love animals very much, very deeply.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You do? Yeah. I love them very deeply. And it's one of the most painful things for me when I see an animal that's been mistreated.
Yes.
I think people don't always understand. I've been a vegetarian for probably 30 years or something, and I live in a part of the country where there isn't a lot of that. And I guess I wish that people would ask that more, like, why? What is it? To me, it's part of God. Like, when I look at an animal, I can't not see God. It's easier for me to see it in an animal sometimes than in humans, because
that's true.
Yeah, because they're so innocent, they're so pure. There aren't motives, and they're just love, and that's a really deep thing for me. The connection I feel to animals. And I just kind of feel like people get a little, like, turned off by the whole vegetarian thing. And it's spiritual. It's a spiritual thing, really.
I think I can relate to you. My partner's a vegan. And I'm almost a vegetarian. I would say almost a vegetarian. I still eat fish. But for me, I think it was because my body started rejecting meat.
Yes.
I didn't have a choice. If your body is telling you something, you better listen. If you don't listen, your body will tell you again. You know, so I think that if more people are more open-minded to the awareness of things, then things will change. I think sometimes can become the ignorance, and I mean ignorance in the sense of lack of knowledge towards a subject or thing. I think people just need to be more aware of the surroundings around them and their body. Your body tells you when something's wrong. You can feel it. If you're spiritually aware, your body you'll feel it, believe me, and it will come more apparent more and more every day. So no, I completely agree with you. What are you most proud of that you stand for as an individual?
Oh, well, mostly I was going to say before the last party is that my girls, my daughters, oh my goodness, you know, I can't even believe their minds sometimes, you know, they're just amazing. And I sometimes I was such a wild kid, like as a teenager. I don't, you know, I'm lucky I made it through alive. And my girls are so good and such good human beings, you know. But yes, I guess what do I stand for more than anything? I hope it's compassion, which goes back to what we were just talking about. I also had a similar experience with, before I understood the connection to animals, I first didn't want to eat pork anymore. I suddenly felt really sick about that. And then I went through the same thing with beef. And then a couple of years later, it was chicken. And it was a process for my body. And then it was
that's what I'm going through.
Yeah. And then once I got through that, I became, I think, more tuned into the animals. And I also think it's helped my ability to communicate with spirit. And also the fact that I don't use alcohol anymore. All these things have made it possible for me to communicate with spirit.
Let's talk about music.
All right.
I know you said that you love music. I know you also said your husband is a musician. Hey, husband.
He's back. She's saying hello to you. He's grabbing a snack in the kitchen. He's
grabbing a snack.
We're talking about music. There he is.
Hi.
This is Edan.
Hey, Edan.
Hey.
So, music is a big part of who we are.
Yeah.
And it helps us to evolve. It helps us to heal. If there was a song that you could choose that could help you heal or manifest in a way that helps you with forgiveness or abundance, if there was a song that was the soundtrack of your life, basically, what I'm trying to say, what song would you choose and why would you choose that particular song?
I got this one on the tip of my tongue. It's Drive by Incubus.
Oh.
I am a huge Incubus fan. And before I really delved into them, I remember that song. You know, it resonates because of the idea of being able to walk your own path and not feeling like you have to join the crowd. And just, you know, would you choose water over wine, hold the wheel and drive?
It's a good line.
It's a good line, you know, and I love it. It's that. So I actually went last summer and had a VIP pass and got to meet the band. And it was like, it was a big moment in my life. Yeah.
See, I like that. I like stuff like that. Yeah. If I was to put you on a desert island and I said to you, you can pick one president, one activist, and one musician to take with you to have a conversation for 24 hours, who would you take and why would you take them?
Okay, the first one is a president.
Yes, the one.
That's a harder one. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
Maybe Malala for the activist, because...
Oh, that's a good one.
I love, you know, and I have daughters, and I grew up with 4 sisters, and I feel like I love the female empowerment and that I know probably a lot of people would choose her because she's just such a force, but just a force of light, you know, no violence at all. And I think that's the answer, you know, that's the answer that is going to lead us towards peace. It has to be, you can't approach anything with violence or hatred. It all has to come through, you know,
love.
It has to be through peace. It has to be through gentleness. And and whatever ways we could be nonviolently, communicating with each other. And she is a perfect example of that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so I love her.
So we got activist, which is a great one.
Yeah.
Now we need musician and president.
I love Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Yeah. Ooh. Check you out.
Oh my gosh, I love him so much. I think he's a special soul here on this planet. I really do. I think he is a force of light. And I watched the way he's walked through his life. He's coming back out, without his best friend, Taylor, who passed away a year ago. And he's just coming right back up. He's just bringing his love back up on that stage, and I don't know. I think about sometimes the day that he went into to make the first Foo Fighters album he made on his own. He didn't have any other, there was no band. He was the band. He played every instrument. And I think it was only about a year after Kurt Cobain had died. And I think of the enormous spiritual and emotional strength that would take to say, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to do this on my own. And I have tremendous respect for him. I'd love to chat with him.
I think we can make that happen somehow.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. If not here, then on the other side.
I think we've got a couple more times to come here. I think we're going to embrace it and come again.
Yeah, for sure. But in between lives, I've already got a few people lined up. I already know.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, that's kind of cool. And the last one is president.
Well, I love Barack Obama.
Uh-huh.
He's the first president I ever loved. I've never been particularly political.
Same.
I am, I'm a Democrat. I will always be a Democrat. But the first time I really loved and felt so proud of a president, that was the first time. Barack Obama. Oh. I still just think he's another one. I mean, he's just such a cool guy. And I think he really brought peace to the table.
Actually, yeah. When you think about it.
Yeah. So those are my people.
I like it. I definitely like it. So when was the last time that you believed that you felt totally at peace with yourself?
I have a lot of moments like that. I'm not good at stretching out a whole day, but you mean in general, like
just in general, like some people have like a 5 minute at peace. Some people have a moment where they can be sitting down and just on a bench. It could be anywhere.
Oh, well, I live near the ocean, and oh my goodness. If you ever come over this way, you should call me and I will show you. I will. Oh, you need to come.
Yeah, okay. You don't have to tell me twice.
Okay.
I'm coming.
Please do. Seriously, I would love that. And I'd love to get to meet you in person. And I'll bring you, there's a little place right down the street, about a 10-minute walk from here, and there are seals. And they just are up on the rocks watching you. And I walk down there most days and I look for sea glass. And it is just a magical place.
Whoa. I would love to go there.
Yes. If you come to the States, I'm telling you, you have my email address. You look me up.
Okay, cool. That's done. Done. Right. So I only have a few more for you.
Okay.
But this one I feel is equally as important. When you feel like you have done enough in the world, and only when you feel like you have done enough in the world, what would you like your legacy to be?
I hope my writing has been able to touch some people in a way to help them to remember their spiritual selves. Much of my writing really comes from spirit. And even when I'm not communicating with spirit, but I'm writing, I feel the presence. And I think a lot of it's not necessarily my brain. I don't know if I have the cleverest brain in the world. Honestly, I don't. But some of the things that they've sort of imposed on me have made my life peaceful, have made my life joyful. And I hope that people can feel that, because I think we're all here, we're doing our best to kind of shine the light. And I hope so. I guess that's what I would want, is that somebody saw it as a light.
What would you say to somebody who is going through being a medium at the moment? Because there are so many people who might be transitioning through, might be going through the same thing that you went through, where everything is completely new to them and they don't know whether to embrace it, they don't know whether to fear it, they don't know whether to let it go and say no, don't choose them. This is really important to me, what would your advice be to those people who are going through that transition at the moment?
I think it would be really helpful to have someone to talk to who's been through it. I had some of that. There's a spiritualist church here. There's a minister there who I just love, and she's a medium. So I could, ask her questions, and that did help me. There used to be a Native American man that also would go to that church, and I took a healing class with him, and he had a lot of answers, so he's the first person that said to me that I was going to be he called it a trance medium. He said, "You're a trance medium." He had his hand on my back, and he said, they're going to be coming in through you. And I said, "Oh, no, they're not. That's not going to happen." That seemed frightening to me,
Oh.
It took a little bit, but it did come to that. And that's really, except for I still have control issues, so I don't let myself drop all the way out because I get scared of that, so my consciousness, when I'm working with someone in spirit, they'll help me to drop my consciousness in a way. It changes my consciousness so that I can connect with them. And I get to a certain point, but when my head starts to go back or my eyes are like, I don't know, I tend to pull forward. But the best messages come the deeper in that I am. And I find that, a lot of times I don't remember them. And then, my husband will have written it down. I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right. That did come through. But yeah, the deeper you go, the better it is, the better the message. I don't know. Maybe I have more fear than most. I'm not sure. But that was really been the biggest thing with me. So we found a sort of common, kind of medium ground where I can just drop enough. It doesn't take that long for me to do it, for me to drop. And for some reason, I sort of found this thing where I think I had a meditation where I saw myself sort of in spirit. Sometimes I'll see different little glimpses. And when I was there, I was just looking down at my feet, and they were barefoot. And there was just this shimmery white light all around me. And I felt this lightness and this love and this like I was just filled up with love, and it was just bursting out of me. And it's an amazing feeling. And so sometimes when I try to connect, I will just picture that. I'll just picture my feet in the light, and they're littler feet. It's like a child, it's like a different lifetime. But, I could see that, and I could see that glimmery white light. And usually if I can actually focus on that, not have other things, I'll snap right in, and someone will speak right through me.
Wow. I would love to be there when that happens.
Well, when you come here, Savia, we can sit together. I don't do it with many people. I'm not a medium who does work for people. I don't give people readings. I don't do any of that. I've never taken money for mediums. I don't believe in that, but I will occasionally have someone come in and sit with my husband and I, and we'll do our communicating together. So if you come to the States, we'll do that.
Okay, that's on. I'm happy to do that. So my final question for you would be, I would love for everyone to be able to buy your book and read it and have that connection, because I believe, again, when we write, we put our energy into our work, and that energy filters out to the rest of the people who take the ambience of reading your book. I would love for them to be able to find it. Please let us know where they can.
Thank you. So it's called Before We Were Born, and the easiest thing is to get it on Amazon, because I don't know where all the shops are in different parts of the world. So yeah, just on Amazon, Before We Were Born. And my website is just myfullname.com. So you can learn more about it there too.
I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People podcast. I've really enjoyed all of our conversation today. It's been so easy, and it's been so relaxing to be able to just talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Savia. I feel the same. It was so enjoyable. It was really wonderful to meet you.
Thank you, guys. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast. And please remember, you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the Us People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or just typing in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
I need a solution. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.
People say that having a peace of mind is trying to find a consistency of calmness within ourselves, to crave for a clarity that drives us through our emotional journey of life, to never let a person's judgment manifest into a fear inside of us, learning to believe in our ability to shine through the darkest moments and tunnels when we cannot see the light. Patience being our light for forgiveness and strength, to believe in our destiny. If you want real peace of mind, one needs to stop fighting their inner thoughts and embrace them with love, because love is the most amazing and beautiful strength that we have to conquer our peace of mind. Make your thoughts impact a nation by keeping them true and honest, especially to yourself. But make your peace of mind protect you when you don't have strength to embrace anything else. Find your peace of mind by listening to your heart.
Much of my writing really comes from spirit. And even when I'm not communicating with spirit, but I'm writing, I feel the presence. And I think a lot of it's not necessarily my brain. I don't know if I have the cleverest brain in the world. Honestly, I don't. But some of the things that they've sort of imposed on me have made my life peaceful, have made my life joyful. And I hope that people can feel that.
Peace of mind, peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.